What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the other day, we had the unfortunate announcement that both the 3DS and the Wii U eShop would be getting shut down next year. And there's a lot of information to go over here, as well as different dates to look out for, and why I don't think it's time to start buying these digital games just yet. Also, we are going to be talking about Horizon Forbidden West. I'm very excited for the game coming up tomorrow, but there's been a lot that's been brought up around deceptive marketing from Sony when it comes to the PS4, the PS5, and that free upgrade. And we're also going to be talking about Nintendo Switch Sports as we have that playtest coming up, but there's some very strange fine print from Nintendo. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Switch Sports. While we'll go over some of the fine print for that playtest later on in the show, there were some small details that were pointed out, especially when it comes to some of the data mining that's been happening on that application that you have to download to your system to take part in that playtest. We can see, for example, this was posted up by NW Player saying, found an interesting license from Nintendo Switch Sports, lists Fidelity FX Super Resolution. That's AMD's upscaling technique that's designed to be competitive with NVIDIA's DLSS. It's not quite on the level of DLSS. However, it is much more compatible with different GPUs, and that would include NVIDIA's Tegra X1 that is in the Switch. DLSS can't be used on that. However, yeah, Super Resolution can be, and I think this caught some people off guard because it's AMD next to NVIDIA, but technically, yeah, it does work fine on NVIDIA GPUs, and AMD kind of markets it as just this universal, I would say, upscaling technique. Oatmeal Dome went a bit more in depth here, where they say FSR is integrated in Switch Sports version of AGL, one of Nintendo's core graphics rendering libraries. The library is used in the past by many first-party games like Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, and so on. This could indicate that FSR may be used in future Nintendo titles. That'd be kind of cool to see it, maybe in like Breath of the Wild 2 or something if they want to clean up the image there, but I guess we'll see it in Switch Sports here soon enough. Now, they also point out that Switch Sports is using the old-style NEX servers, not the new NPLN like something with Monster Hunter Rise, for example, would be using, which was a very smooth online experience. Kind of makes me a bit concerned for Switch Sports, but here we'll be at least doing a playtest for it and see how those the old online holds up for it. Also, Platinum Games has really been making the rounds when it comes to interviews with different publications, and there was an odd one that happened here with VGC when they were asked about NFTs and even Konami. We can see this over on VGC saying, "Were you surprised to see Konami get involved in NFTs so quickly?" Hideki Kamiya responded, "Not really. If it smells like money, Konami's going to be there in a heartbeat." Well, so much for Metal Gear Rising 2. They did talk about NFTs a bit, mostly saying they don't really see the benefit to players or to games in general outside of just making more money for the executives. We've talked about NFTs a bit in the past when it comes to true ownership, but a lot of that's being attached to inflate values of skins in games. At least Ubisoft's taking a shot at it. Platinum just doesn't seem that interested at all in NFTs and kind of sitting on the sidelines taking a wait-and-see approach here. But it sounds like they have a lot more to be concerned about now with Project GG coming up. So we'll see what they have there. It was just an interesting reaction, I'll say, from Kamiya when it comes to Konami. Oh, and we do have Gran Turismo 7 fast approaching here, first week of March, and I'm looking forward to that one. But we did find out that the PS4 version will be using 2 Blu-ray game discs, which is nice because, you know, you might get a game, you pop it, and it's like, here's a 50 gigabyte patch that's basically the second disc. Nope, it looks like Polyphony and PlayStation want to make sure it's all there in the package, minus, I'm sure, a large day one patch. We always just assume that now with some of these larger AAA games. But if you go over to the PlayStation Direct store, it does note at the bottom that there are indeed 2 discs. So good to see that. We've had multi-disc releases in the past, but it's just good to see that at least with Gran Turismo 7, they're not cheaping out, giving you 1 disc and that's it. The PS5 version does have 1 disc, but that's because the PS5 can use kind of the ultra high def Blu-rays that can hold 100 gigabytes. But the PS4 uses like the dual layer Blu-rays that hold 50. So, hey, if you're buying it for the PS4, you should have it all there. You might have to do an install disc, and then, of course, you can look forward to, I'm sure, a sizable day one patch. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the 3DS and the Wii U store closures happening next year. Nintendo tweeted out this announcement and then also linked to this support page that I will drop down below in the sources if you want to go through the Q&A a bit more in depth. But we can see this saying Wii U and Nintendo 3DS 3DS eShop discontinuation. As of late March 2023, it will no longer be possible to make purchases in Nintendo eShop for Wii U system and Nintendo 3DS family of systems. It will also no longer be possible to download free content that includes game demos. Furthermore, as this date draws closer, related services will cease to function. They point out 2 other dates to look forward to, that being May 23rd, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a credit card to add funds to an account in Nintendo eShop on Wii U or the Nintendo 3DS family of systems. Then as of August 29th, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a Nintendo eShop card to add funds to an account in Nintendo eShop on Wii U or the Nintendo 3DS family of systems. However, it will still be possible to redeem download codes until late March 2023. Now, in the Q&A, they do mention that you will be able to re-download previously purchased content in the eShop for the Wii U or the 3DS for the foreseeable future. That does include software updates, and you'll still be able to play online with the Wii U and the 3DS. So it's not losing all of its functionality or anything. They're mostly just saying, hey, you're not gonna be able to buy things from us anymore. And I mean, let's be real here for a minute. I don't exactly think the Wii U shop was making that kind of money or seeing that kind of traffic. And this is something we dealt with for Sony last year. They were going to shut down the PS3, the PSP, the Vita. They did shut down the PSP. However, the PS3 and the Vita really got a lot of backlash, right? And they said, no, you know what, we'll leave this up. Obviously, the reasoning for that was because they probably looked at how many people were actually using the PS3 and the Vita, and it wasn't enough to warrant the cost of credit card processing and all the infrastructure, everything that goes into the back end of that. And it looks like that's something that Nintendo's doing here. It's just, both of these systems are much younger than the PS3 and technically the same age as the Vita, right? But Sony saw massive backlash when they went to do this. Whereas Nintendo doing this, I saw a lot of people who were more or less just accepting it completely. And maybe that's just where we are now with Nintendo in general. It's more acceptance because we believe they probably won't change their ways. And I mean, yeah, Nintendo is, they're pretty stubborn when it comes to this stuff. Very rarely will they about face on any of their decisions. But when you start to look down the list of software that will just disappear, at least not be readily available for people to buy, say if they come across a Hidden Gems video next year or something online, it's pretty staggering. We're talking like thousands pieces of software. People have making lists already as to some of their favorite things that you want to go and buy. I'm gonna tell you now though, I wouldn't buy stuff just yet, even on like the digital storefronts. Okay, if you're buying physical, yeah, maybe start looking around because those prices are just gonna continue to go up and up and up as we go along. But I have a feeling we could see some fire sales from third parties that are just looking to get on the front page for the sales and also just collect whatever money they can before any of these payment processes are shut down. So I would hold off until like beginning of May and just see what the digital landscape there looks like, because we might just have a bunch of sales going on and you get stuff cheaper than you can now. One of the things I saw pointed out by people when it comes to Sony and how the reaction was there versus Nintendo now is Nintendo's giving us a full year. Not really. I mean, they're giving us 3 months because after they remove the ability to buy with debit or credit cards, majority of people are just going to say, well, that's it. Like, I get you can buy the gift card, the eShop card, or you can do shared wallets to buy even beyond August, but that just becomes more and more inconvenient to where people are just like, well, whatever, I'll just move on and don't really care that much, at least enough to go through all of that. Technically, Sony gave us 4 and 5 months based on the systems when it came to using your card, like your credit or debit card. And then even past that, they said you'll be able to just redeem download codes or vouchers for the foreseeable future. Nintendo's technically given us a time limit even on those for March 2023. Also, we did have a note when it comes to Pokemon Bank, as that was attached to a subscription service, which won't be able to be charged anymore because the eShop's basically gonna lose its ability to process payments. It looks like right now the Pokemon Bank is just gonna go free, which remember, after March 2023, you won't be able to download free stuff, so you won't be able to grab Pokemon Bank. Might want to go pick that up now, actually. Austin John had a bit more in depth for a video that you should check out, as he's more knowledgeable around the Pokemon stuff. Now, when it comes to game preservation, this is becoming more and more of an issue as we go along here, provided that Nintendo doesn't change their mind, and I don't think anyone's really expecting them to. I mean, seriously, people could be absolutely tearing down the internet, and Nintendo's just gonna kind of walk right by it because they're Nintendo, but it's gonna be very tough when it comes to just avoiding homebrew in general or soft modding a system and then just downloading games. Nintendo is very aggressive when it comes to piracy for the Switch, and they should be, because they have an obligation to third parties to protect that ecosystem as much as possible. But we've also seen them be pretty aggressive around legacy systems when it comes to different ROMs and emulators and all this stuff. And it's strange because while Nintendo gets really annoyed of that to the point where they're spending, I'm sure, millions of dollars in the courtroom, they're actually the ones that make that necessary with moves like these with the 3DS and the Wii U, and not giving people access to quite a bit of software since they're just going to shut the store down. And I'll admit, it's tough not to just tell people, hey, if Nintendo's want to sell it to you, and they haven't made any progress when it comes to providing access to these games beyond, when the store closure happens, I mean, what else do you do? you probably are going to soft mod a system and just download these digital-only games that were on that eShop that you can't get to now. So that's kind of where we are. I mean, I would just keep an eye on any digital sales that pop up for games that you want to get, or go physical and start collecting 3DS games now. I technically told people last year in a video, now is the time to start collecting 3DS games. Well, now's really the time to start collecting 3DS and even Wii U titles, because it's only up from here when it comes to the value of those games, especially when it becomes harder and harder to get. Oh, and also one more thing. I saw a lot of people say, you've had all this time to buy these games. I don't really like that argument that much, because that just assumes that we're all discovering these games at the same time, all in the same order. And that's not going to be the case as generations of gamers continue to cycle through. Newer gamers come into the scene and they see that really cool Hidden Gems video about this digital Wii U game 5 years from now. Well, I guess it's time to soft mod, because there's no other way to get it. Next up, let's talk about Horizon Forbidden West. It's out tomorrow. Like I said, I'm really excited to dive into this game. But if you remember, Sony went through a whole ordeal when it came to the PS5 and the PS4 version, where they really wanted to be able to charge more for the PS5 version, but they worked themselves into a corner where they kind of said that the upgrade would be free for Horizon because they were expecting to come out much closer to launch. So it would have been similar to how they treated Spider-Man Miles Morales at the time with that PS4 and PS5 version. So now that we have Horizon coming up tomorrow, they do have a free upgrade in place from the PS4 to the PS5 version, but they're not doing the best job when it comes to telling you about that. And it's been pointed out, we can see here by Richard Hogue Law. Check out that YouTube channel, because he has an entire video really going over this in depth, saying, folks left on me for my tweet on this a week ago, but there is no defending the kind of business model from the Sony PlayStation folks. They appear to be deliberately confusing the price point in an effort to steal $10 from the uninformed, duplicity, and greed. Now, we have a kind of a side-by-side comparison image here when it comes to Horizon with the standard edition, and then the standard edition, and it's like 60 and 70. In fact, you can't even get to that $60 version from your PlayStation 5 at all. Like, you have to go through the website to get to a version of the game that still has the PS5 version as a free upgrade. Clearly, Sony doesn't want to show that to you. They want you to buy the $70 version. So if you are going to buy digitally, there's like no reason to buy that $70 version, like, at all, because when you buy the $6 version, you just get a free upgrade and it just gives you the PS5 version anyway. So I don't know why you wouldn't just go on the website, buy it for $60, and then just download it on your PS5 and get that free upgrade. Now, I will admit, if you are a collector or you're somebody who doesn't want a PS4 copy of the game to sit there with your other PS5 games, it might be worth $10 to you to do that. Trust me, I have plenty of PS1 or PS2 games that have the greatest hits, and it's like a red spine or like a green spine that's just completely out of place. I understand. But when it comes to the digital version, yeah, this isn't a good look for Sony here. Clearly, they should have just priced this thing at $60 and said, you know what? That's our fault. We should have been more clear in the first place, and we should have just followed through with this free upgrade as it was, because that's how we originally communicated it. So unless Sony goes back and just fixes it, changes the price, which I assume they won't, because I'm sure plenty of people have pre-ordered that $70 version, all I can tell you is get the $6 version digitally, take advantage of the free upgrade. Don't give a big corporation $10 if you don't have to, but if you want to get it physically and you don't mind the PS4 box art, you can go on Amazon. It even says like the free PlayStation upgrade, or grab it in Walmart, save some money there, or of course you go to GameStop, wherever. But that's kind of where we are. If you really want the PS5 box art cover and all of that, go ahead, $70. Otherwise though, take advantage of that free upgrade because Sony's made it available, you might as well. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo Switch Sports. We have that playtest this weekend. It'll actually be starting Friday night, and then they'll have it, of course, in different time periods throughout Saturday and Sunday. If you want to be a part of it, you can go on the website. I'll actually link it down below in the sources, and you can sign up, get a code for your Switch, which will allow you to redeem it in the eShop and download an application. But there was some fine print that was noticed, and it's a bit strange because this is just like an open registration that they have. You don't necessarily go in and sign anything, but take a look at this. At the bottom, it says, by downloading and participating in the Nintendo Switch Sports online playtest, you agree not to publicly share any details from this online playtest, including on your social media channel. So I am going to be playing this on like Friday and Saturday and all of this. I think the first one is like 7 p.m. Pacific time. And I guess I can't talk about it on like the podcast or talk about it on Twitter or share any screenshots, but apparently the share button is still active. So I'm sure that'll go over really well for Nintendo online. I guess they better get those copyright strikes ready for places like Twitter or even on YouTube. The way they operate, I'm sure that'll be happening pretty quick there. It's just an odd thing. I mean, the only thing I could think of here is Nintendo realizes there's going to be a lot of problems with this network. We're going to have timed out connections. We're going to have some weird looking stuff happening, I'm sure. And they don't want the product, that being Switch Sports, to be misrepresented. But like, they're the ones who opened the playtest. They're the ones who left the share button enabled. What do you expect people to do? They're going to play Switch Sports and they're probably going to talk about it. Like, if your friend comes up to you in person, you have to like kind of like look around and be like, yeah, Switch Sports was pretty fun, but like this weird stuff kept happening when I was trying to bowl in this one round. No, people are going to talk about it. It's just Nintendo being a bit strange here. I am curious what happens over the weekend as people start to post all kinds of screenshots. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Battlefield 2042 once again. It had a rough launch, and it looks like they're going to be working to basically fix this game over the next several months. But there was a call internal at EA working to explain to the company what exactly went wrong with Battlefield 2042. There's an entire write-up. You can see this posted up over on xfire.com. This from Tom Henderson saying, EA acknowledges Battlefield 2042 failure with Town Hall post-mortem. I will link to this write-up down below in the sources because there are a lot of things that Tom Henderson went over here, which includes issues with the Frostbite engine, how they really had to continue building it out so that the game itself would just work in the first place. They also mentioned how ambitious the project was while they kind of grappled with the global pandemic that really hit halfway into the project, all of the remote work. But something kind of caught me off guard with this one. They talk about one of the reasons actually being Halo Infinite. This on part of the call where it's described that the comparison between both games was not favorable because Halo Infinite was a very polished title, whereas Battlefield 2042 contained bugs and wasn't as polished. Now, I will admit Halo Infinite was there as it's a free-to-play game, so obviously it's gonna pull interest from a game that's like $60, $70. The dual entitlement made it more, the special editions, all of this, right? Whereas Halo Infinite had a scoreboard. Like you just jump in and play it, and yeah, it did feel like a better game when it came to the shooting. Like that's something that 343 got absolutely right in Halo, whereas, I mean, one of the biggest things people were bringing up with Battlefield, which was very weird, were the shooting mechanics were just off. Whether it was the physics, the bullet drop, all these different things. And I mean, Battlefield 2042 does feel like a game that they had some serious ambitious ideas, and they were trying to make it work, and it just couldn't. And it's going to take them a while to fix it. And should they have just delayed Battlefield 2042? I mean, obviously, like a lot of us are looking at it and saying, how could you launch without a scoreboard? But they did like internal polling and testing and focus groups, and it felt like they were on the right track for release this holiday. And I'm sure if they could turn back time with what they know now, they would say, hey, look, it's clearly not ready. We have to wait until 2022, at least the way they were talking during this town hall. So it's going to be one of those things that maybe we'll look back on, you know, like 3 or 4 years from now, and we're like, hey, Battlefield 2042 actually turned out to be a pretty good game. It just took them a while to get there. And really also the idea of it being a premium product, but being multiplayer only in a world of several free-to-play titles is something else that I'm sure EA and DICE will be thinking about with their next release. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, Have you owned / do you own a Wii U? You know, out of the number of votes, I did not expect to have 40% of people say, yes, I have one right now. I must have like 80% of the Wii U user base right here. 13% said I had one before, but I got rid of it. And then 40% said, no, I never owned one. I mean, we look at the overall sales for the Wii U. I can't imagine there were that many people on the store now. And there's a few things going into this. Nintendo probably realizes that's kind of it for the Virtual Console. If the Wii U gets shut down, there's really not much competing with what they have now with their Switch Online service. Not that there were that many people, I'm sure, using the Wii U in the first place, but it still kind of gets rid of that idea that there is somewhere else to go to buy Nintendo or Super Nintendo or Game Boy Advance games. And technically, they can kind of put that system to rest. A device that really did not do well for them at all. Like, there's no good way to say it. It was basically a failure for Nintendo, and now they've moved on to a much more successful system. So for them, it's probably two birds, one stone. We get rid of that Virtual Console, we kind of put that system that left a mark on our legacy behind us. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Burn saying, I like the HD2D engine / style, but I'm getting tired with them using it for so many games. It will lose its charm. This is something that was brought up in a discussion video that I had with a few people, should be going up in the next week or so, but the idea that HD2D could be overused to where it just loses its impact. Like when we first saw it with Octopath Traveler, it was like, whoa, what is this? This looks incredible. Then we saw it with Dragon Quest 3. We're like, oh, that's great. We're going to have Dragon Quest 3 remade in HD2D. Then we see Live Alive and of course Triangle Strategy now. And the idea that, yeah, maybe it would lose its charm if we just continue to see it. I would like to think that HD2D is something that Square will continue to build on because they seem very committed to that engine now. And maybe they continue to improve on it and do different effects. And it just slowly starts to look different and better and better. And who knows, maybe in like 5-10 years or so, we'll look back on this first instance of it and it'll just look completely different. But yeah, I hope they at least have the idea to continue building on top of this engine as they go along and continue to revive some of those classics that maybe we didn't get to play. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the 3DS and the Wii U stores shutting down next year? How do you feel about that? And do you think it's too soon? Or Horizon Forbidden West and Sony making it kind of difficult to get to this free upgrade from your PlayStation 5 and then Switch Sports? Are you playing it this weekend, and are you going to try to share some of your screenshots? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.